Okay, let's get started. We are recording and I'll be letting people in as I speak. And thank you, Sigrid, for also letting people in. Um, we're going to get started right on time. So this is credit for prior learning. It's a conversation. We do have some information to present, and we also have some things to follow up with. And this is very specific to the ECE, EDU sector and CPL, and looking at how ECE and EDU can comply with the idea of credit for prior learning and why it makes sense in some areas. So, I'd like to introduce Sigrid. You can introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Dr. Sigrid Williams. I'm the CPL coordinator for the California MAP Initiative and also associate professor and chair of the School of Human and Public Services at Norco College.
Okay, great.
And Kathleen, with that, I'd also like Dr. Nacio, if she would introduce herself from the MAP Initiative.
Great.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Dr. Crystal Nacio here from the MAP Initiative supporting Dr. Williams. I'm on the career education side on workforce readiness and CPL demonstration projects. And so super interested in the goings and comings of this meeting today and excited to be here to support all of you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you both for being here. And it's possible we will have Terrence Lee or Samuel. One of them did respond. So if they pop in, can you let me know and we'll introduce them?
Absolutely.
Sarah is here from Cabrillo College. Sarah, if you're able to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Sarah DeSalle. I am off camera today, but I'm here to let you know a little bit about our CPL RJV and anyone who wants to get involved. I do work closely with the MAP initiative as well. So I'm going to let them lead the majority of the conversation. Thank you so much for having me, Kathleen.
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. And we'll learn more about the regional joint venture at Cabrillo College that's focused on CPL later on during this presentation. So welcome to our guests. And Sigrid, again, if Terrence or Samuel pop in, just let me know and they can introduce themselves. For those of you who have just joined, put your name and affiliation in the chat and let us know who's here and welcome to our panel. I'll be facilitating, and most of you do know I coordinate the ECE EDU regional joint venture for the BACCC and looking at pathways, pipelines, and apprenticeships. And credit for prior learning is uh, part of creating a vibrant pathway, or at least addressing the issue and looking at what's possible. I added a few things here in this slide that are related to why one might be interested in initiating credit for prior learning in ECE or EDU. One is obviously for students. It saves them time. It could save them costs. It could help accelerate their completion. It's attractive to many students, and it's also a method as part of the Chancellor's Demonstration 2030 project, Vision 2030. It is related to attracting new students who maybe haven't been to the community college but have engaged in activities that could earn them credit to accelerate their progress. Another reason for our sector, and many of you are aware that many of our private colleges that offer ECE or EDU pathways, and I listed some like Pacific Oaks, Walden, National University, are granting CPL, and this includes in lower division. So I don't want to say that they're directly our competition, but in some ways they are. But the promise of an expedited pathway in this sector is something we should all at least be aware of. And you can look around in at your neighboring colleges and see who your feeder colleges are and if they're offering expedited pathways in the form of CPL. So I think it does make sense that at least community colleges in our area consider this issue and come to at least have a discussion around it and maybe some agreement. I've also added a link in the PowerPoint, and all of you will get the PowerPoint on a CPL survey that was out from the Center of Child Care Employment. And they're surveying early childhood programs, private and public programs around CPL. because many workforce members who are employed in child development programs are very interested in understanding how their employment can lead toward faster or more accelerated completion, and if that's possible. So there's a link to this survey. You can take a look at the questions that are being asked. We also in our region, as many of you know, have growing numbers of apprenticeship programs in our sector. I think the last count was we have 27 just in our region in our sector, apprenticeship programs at community colleges, and we have 15 in K-12 programs in pre-apprenticeships. So looking at the growing numbers of apprenticeship programs where students are kind of working, earning and learning and are with us for a specific time period and for a specific number of units, I think slightly changes the commitment to CPL. And we'll learn later what some colleges are doing around CPL and apprenticeship. And then lastly, there are CPL agreements, and Sigrid can give us more information on that, of course, in other sectors. And some of the other sectors might be law enforcement. Obviously, veterans have had a lot of work around looking at coursework applied in the military and translating it to college. I know public service, firefighters. We've got a lot of CPL, especially in very defined pathways. Our pathway is a little different. And as you all know, it's a bit of the Wild West because students go into many different jobs and have many different career goals. But and the pathway is not the same for all students, as you all know. But I think where pathways are more uniform, it has been easier to address CPL. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I would like to invite Sigrid and Crystal meet the MAP team out of the Chancellor's office. They're part of the Vision 2030 effort. And Sigrid's going to take it away with Crystal and talk to you about CPL.
So hi, everyone. Thanks for being here on the afternoon of the 9th. We are in the second week of December, and it's crazy to think that this year is almost over with. Dr. Nacio and I, we have been working diligently with the MAP initiative, doing trainings on apprenticeships and statewide credit recommendations. Our counterparts, Terrence Nelson and Calvin Gloria, they're in other meetings right now. They are handling the military side of the house and the JST side of the house. So to give you just a brief overview, not knowing how much you know about MAP initiative and CPL, this initially started as the military articulation platform back in 2017 with a grant that was given to Norco College. Dr. Lee was the ambassador. He was the brains behind it all and got it going up until a few years ago when he had 56 colleges on board with the cohorts, primarily putting in all the JSTs and offering our military servicemen and women credit when they got out of the military and they were on their way to college earning a degree. This has since expanded in the last 2.5 years. We now call it Mapping Articulated Platform. That carries everything from industry credentials, which is what you're here to talk about with ECE, through AP exams, credit by exam, standardized exams, portfolios, and apprenticeships. That's going to be a sprint that we're going to see from the Chancellor's office beginning next year. So that's a little bit about MAP. The other part is MAP. Most people think MAP is a platform and it's a repository. The MAP initiative goes beyond just the platform. That is one element of our initiative. The MAP team has a group of individuals, and I think we're about 15 strong right now. We are doing the professional development. We are doing the work behind the scenes to make this an easy transfer of getting industry credentials written, aligned, and then put into the MAP platform for anyone to visually see up front and then be able to make that determination what college they're going to go to by what's being offered to them. Crystal, do you want to touch on anything else?
Yeah, so I wanted to just mention real quickly here that, the Chancellor's Office in Vision 2030 very seriously has some outcomes associated with CPL. And so we're a part of that arm, that whole initiative, but it does cross over to many different demonstration projects. And so I'm going to put in the chat the work plan specific to CPL under the umbrella of the 2030 vision, and so that you guys can kind of take a look at how that all interplays together. But the idea of this team across the state, MAP, it has representatives across the state. We're hoping to be able to engage in conversations to help each of our colleges engage with CPL. This means if you're, emerging, if you're full scale CPL, or if it's just starting the discussion about it, that's really where we're going to meet you where you are. So we're hoping to be able to get some headway here in the coming year. We really want to thank those who participated, colleges that participated in the veteran sprint, did an amazing job. We had about half of the colleges who really engaged in trying to meet our number by the November 11th deadline, which was Veterans Day. And congratulations to all of you who did that. And we're going to continue that sprint moving forward. Um, so my role in the MAP initiative is apprenticeship, CPL, a demonstration project. So that includes non-credit, not for credit, as well as developing relationships with our workforce development boards, and then making sure that we're kind of moving these things forward and having our outcomes met. So I'm really excited to be a part of this. I think it's important to kind of right set why CPL and why now. The initiative within the Vision 2030 is very clear. We want to make sure that we're providing additional support to students to accelerate their completion to graduation and degrees. And we want to recognize working adults in all fields, inclusive of ECE, and their experience, a work experience that could qualify for credit courses, and certifications that may be coming from your field that would also qualify. So this is a huge benefit to the field. The new ECE teaching is still a shortage across the state, and so this is very, very much aligned with meeting our workforce needs across everything. So super excited. The local control is important for you to understand that each one of your colleges is going to maintain your own mission, your own processes, but we're here to support you kind of work through all of those things and get that moving. If you are interested in the apprenticeship side and are wanting to really get involved, and if you represent an ECE apprenticeship, I put my name and information in the chat. Please reach out to me. We will start the statewide work group for apprenticeship February 1st. In that month, we will start and we will go until it's complete. So I'm excited to help you guys move this forward. Allison Marikek from Santiago Canyon College is going to be the statewide lead for this initiative. So thank you.
Great, thank you. I just have two things to add, and then I have two questions before we move to the next slide. So you mentioned local control and that every college is somewhat responsible for their own CPL agreements. But in this field, which encompasses both ECE and EDU education, we're also a demonstration project. So there's some overlap. And we have a lot of external partners. Um, um, I would say there's some external control around the certifications granted. And there's some ways that even though we are unique in offering our programs, many of us belong to the CAP aligned efforts and our CAP aligned. So really what goes for one course might go for more courses at different colleges. So we're kind of a unique sector in that we have lots of affiliations and lots of partners, I guess, in this effort. Um, and so when you mention local control, I guess you're implying that every college would be starting this on their own. But clearly, folks who are part of the CAP 8 have been participating. I know the Academic Senate has had some meetings. And then you mentioned the start of an apprenticeship group.
Mhm.
So it's both local and collaborative, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think discipline by discipline is really how ASCCC is doing this work, and
Hmm.
it's patterned after the work that's already been done. And Dr. Sigrid Williams helped to facilitate one of the groups already. So I think I'll let her kind of speak to that, but it's
Hmm.
super important that we do look at what happens within a single discipline. When we talk about local control, we're talking about the adoption of credit
Uh-huh.
recommendations, right?
Okay. Got it.
But the credit recommendations will happen from this group, this
Hmm.
discipline group,
Hmm.
right? So, Dr. Williams, can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the several different things. Colleges have the autonomy to determine what CPL will look like at their college based on what their faculty recommendations are going to be. This is a bottoms-up approach, which means faculty will ultimately make the decision. Even if the executives say you're going to do it, if faculty say no, it doesn't align to our courses, they're not going to adopt it and it won't be part of their repository. On the map platform, we do have college pages for every college that has exhibits for CPL in a multitude of disciplines, including all their JSTs and the ACE credit recommendations that came down. So that is something that's automatically built in every time a college articulates an exhibit or adopts an exhibit from another college. So we put a couple of we put a couple of links in the chat, and I'm going to throw one more in. This is one specifically for EAR and ECE. This is on the dashboard. These are colleges that have already adopted CPL in early childhood. So you can actually look at those. We also have a new feature on there called Quick Adopt. Not being someone that is signing into MAP, but anyone front facing, it could be a faculty member, it could be a student, it could be someone from the public. If they believe that CPL aligns with their college of choice, they could request a quick adopt. And then that actually starts the initial process with the initiator where they're going to look at that and then send it off to faculty to see if
Mm.
they will actually approve it.
Okay.
So it is local control. Now, we also have the statewide credit recommendations that Dr. Nacio alluded to that we began, and we have 10 of them that we've done across the state. One of them being ADJ, Administration of Justice, very close to my heart because as a retired police officer, I know that curriculum very, very well,
Mhm.
having gone through it multiple times and then teaching at Cal State Fullerton as well within criminal justice. A lot of that aligns. These statewide work groups, whether it was ADJ or corrections or CIS or fire technology, auto, welding, all of them, we flew it out there. Anyone interested in, joining a work group to align our courses with CPL, please do so. So we had a minimum of 5 faculty members across the state that would join in. We're using the same process as our ACE, the American Council on Education, uses for our JSTs. So they do the alignment, they have the conversations, and it has to be determined by consensus, yes or no. So there's no in between in there. Once that was done, we did the exhibits, we put it out there, and we aligned it with courses, identified CIDs if they had any CIDs, or if
Mhm.
they're did not have CIDs, which, that's the Pandora's box in a sense, because there are a lot of colleges that are offering courses that never got a CID on it. It's in
Mhm.
Koki, but they never got a CID.
Mhm.
So that's going to be up to the colleges whether they want to pursue that within curriculum to get the CID. But either way, even if it doesn't have a CID, they can still match it up. That faculty member at that college can say, hey, yes, in fact, this aligns with mine.
Mhm.
The hard work is done through the statewides. Now, as Dr. Nacio was saying, this is now being taken over as of January 1st by ASCCC. We've contracted with them and through the Chancellor's Office and MAP, we've contracted with ASCCC to go ahead and run those those statewide work
Mhm.
groups. Um, because they have the listservs, right? They've got all the faculty, in their listservs, so they can reach out probably a little bit faster, but we'll see where that goes. We did try to do ECE once before. 2 years ago, we started the process. We had a lot of pushback at that time from
Mhm.
faculty members within ECE,
Mhm.
primarily saying that to earn the credential to actually run a daycare or to earn that credential within early childhood, you had to take the courses. It was built that way. So it's not that you're going to have the credential and now you're looking to get CPL for coursework, because the coursework has to be done to get that credential.
Mhm.
But things change. So what happened and what occurred 2 years ago may be entirely different. So we definitely have what I consider to be an expert in the room. She's a wonderful colleague of mine from Cabrillo. Sarah, do you want to add anything on that with the ECE side of the house when we tried to do this statewide once before?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk for a minute because when I work, so I am faculty and I work with faculty on credit for prior learning. And I also understand a little bit about the ECE matrix. I'm not an ECE faculty member, but I did get a teaching credential and I understand the EDU or EDUC side of the house a little bit more. And so I just wanted to point out, I put it in the chat that our veterans are coming in with these classes. It means they have taken classes. And so I understand the need that you want to ensure that credit is given to meet what's needed on the matrix. And I also want to point out that I literally just went into my map platform, pulled forward a veteran who had a credit recommendation for 1 hour in introduction to education. And I just grabbed what it showed in the platform as the credit recommendation. And at Cabrillo, we do have an introduction to education class. This information that's in the chat, right? I mean, I went through some of these things in order to get my teaching credential. And some of these students need to have an indication that they have taught before, that they've taught different age groups, and that they know they want to get into education, right? And so having even just 1 or 2 courses approved and aligned for a student can help them on their pathway. So some of it is not about whether it's going to work on the matrix. Some of it is about the student being validated that they do have this experience and this is a valid pathway for them. So just putting it out there that CPL is not limited by the industry, that CPL also has power over students choosing pathways and where they're going to go. If this student came to me and said, I'm thinking about teaching, I would say, great. I see this already on your JST. I can align it with this 1 unit course that I have at Cabrillo. And I'm honoring that that student has a foundation to go into education. It doesn't mean that they 100% need that 1 unit. And sometimes when they get together with the counselor, even though I've aligned that unit and the faculty has approved it, the student may or may not accept it, depending on where their path is leading, if that 1 unit would be transferred to where they want to transfer, or if it would help them to get into a teacher credentialing program. There are teacher credentialing programs that they do it in an ITEP program, right? 4 years, cramming it in, getting it done. And I have worked closely with our local CSUs about aligning at the community college level courses and experiences. That way, when the students get to the CSU to get into that fast track credential program, they have everything lined up and ready to go. And this is one of the things that they do look for, is how many hours that they have had exposure in education. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's
Thank you,
sometimes
Sarah.
there's some limits that people see, but sometimes they don't see it from the student's point of view.
Right. And I think just the fact that we do have veterans who are interested in ECE or EDU with military credit that could be relevant is important to remember. So thank you. I'm going to move on a bit and we'll have time shortly to come back to our MAP team. Just a quick summary that there are various means for assessing CPL and granting CPL. Some colleges have done credit by exam, evaluation of transcripts. So that's the veterans is a example of that, where they come in with their experiences already documented, evaluation of student-created portfolios, or industry-recognized credential documentation. And this is where, in our sector, it gets a little dicey because most of the industry recognized credentials are dependent on achieving coursework. So if they have a child development permit, they probably have academic coursework, and they're not going to be getting a CPL for that. But there are some things that we may look at that are in this list. I went through the online site that Sigrid was referring to that lists the current courses in ECE or EDU that are listed on the dashboard, the CPL dashboard. And so I just want to share with you what a few colleges in California are doing. And you can all, I gave you the website. It's linked up here. It's where it says CPL dashboard. Um, and you can kind of look at what some other colleges have agreed to. Modesto Community College is granting practicum hours for their course, and it's primarily related to apprenticeship. And so all of you on this call are either faculty or deans in this area or leaders, so you know that practicum is typically an approved course. It's typically a required course, and it's work experience as well as academic coursework. So content, lecture and work experience. So that their practicum allocation for CPL is tied to their apprenticeship. Santa Ana has credit by exam. This is very much tied to their high school pathways. And so actually there's a few colleges that are doing credit by exam for high school students that may not even be on this map yet. I know of a few where they're giving college credit if a student takes credit for by exam in a high school course. San Diego Community College has their full Cap 8 on. And so these are the two emails of the folks that can talk about that. They have the most extensive list. It's credit by exam or self-study. Their process, I don't really know their process. Sigrid or Crystal may know better, but they had quite a few courses in the Cap 8 available, and it was credit by exam, as I said, or self-study. Saddleback has the core courses, and they are tied to the CDA credential. And that the CDA is an industry certification, not widely used in California, and I guess in some circles somewhat controversial, but in other states, CDA is used as a means to assess readiness for entering the workforce. And this could be a way of attracting out-of-state students who are living in California if they bring in a CDA credential. That is an industry certification, and Saddleback College has looked at this. Modesto Community College is providing practicum and observation credit for prior learning, especially related to their apprenticeship and work experience. And then Merced has a portfolio review for child growth and development related to apprenticeship. So clearly tying, apprentices are kind of earn and learn students many of you have apprenticeships and they are with us for a bit longer or more intensely, I guess. The relationship is more intense. And so clearly having CPL available when you have a student working with one employer and attending your program for a certain amount of time may be more palatable. So I just wanted to share that. If you can look at the dashboard yourself and see what colleges have agreed to. So I kind of divided these into two clusters here, what I thought would be easier for a college to address. Work experience seems very easy to me. Has the person worked, verified work experience in a ECE or an EDU classroom or setting? If so, perhaps a college would be willing to grant work experience units in this sector. Practicum may be easier to digest under certain circumstances. Are they an apprentice? Do they have a mentor at their work site? Under what circumstances would you be willing to grant practicum course experience as credit for prior learning? Dual enrollment may be more palatable. As you all know, high schools have courses like child development, like child and the family, that maybe a credit by exam, if you have a good relationship with your high school and you know what the students are learning, that might be very easy to leap to, a credit by exam agreement in CPL. Um, Apprenticeship, Crystal mentioned really deep work will go on starting in February around apprenticeship. And I would say that for those who have apprenticeship programs in ECE or EDU, having some shared goals and understandings would probably help. But clearly, when you know the employers and you have students going through the coursework with the same employers and they're staying for a while, it does seem to make this easier to look at what they're learning. And then CAP alignment. The CAP program has made some recommendations. There most certainly is continuity in the state around the CAP aligned courses and who's doing what with CAP aligned. The CAP aligned courses would be a great kind of place to start, and looking at what colleges have moved forward with certain courses. I think more challenging for our faculty, and I would say from experience as being faculty, portfolio review, the whole issue of who conducts a portfolio review, who sets the standards, the guidelines, and who is reviewing a portfolio and what's going to be in it, um, and the time it takes. So that might be a concern. Industry certification, other than CDA, which is not, as I said, very common in our state, but are there other industry certifications that would make sense for our sector? And if so, how would we assess their appropriateness? Core classes, I've heard from a lot of faculty who believe that the core classes are critical for students to complete really in the traditional way because it takes so few units to have a student be allowed to be left alone with children. It's really 12 or 12 to 15, depending on the situation and the age group. That there's kind of reluctance to say that the student is prepared unless there's a rigorous CPL alternative. CDA, as I mentioned, not widely used in California, but we do have out-of-state students that come here. Would that be a place to consider? And then how do we look at all the varying requirements, like licensing, CDE, all the other entities that rely on courses? Will a CPL meet those needs? And those are just things to think about. Our challenges, again, are speed through our pathway, quality, and external pressures. All of you know we have employers who have employees who need to obtain certification, need community college courses, need to move through their pathways. And we most certainly have employers who want accelerated pathways, but therein lies one of the challenges. So just things to think about. Cabrillo, I think Sarah, you mentioned your work already. Could you talk about how to join, what the RJV is going to focus on, and how to join the BACCC effort?
Hi. Yeah. So I'm going to focus a little bit now on the joint regional venture or the regional joint venture. Sorry. Been a long couple of months for me. We have office hours every Friday. So if your college or you may not know if your college is connected with the RJV or not, I can put a link in the chat in just a moment, and you can see the responses that we have gotten back for the convening in February. And if you see your college there, maybe you can get together with whoever has filled out the form that they're coming to the convening in February. And every Friday we have office hours talking about CPL, some of the nuts and bolts. I built it from nothing to everything at Cabrillo, and I have a really strong team, including evaluators, counselors. I work with the articulation officer and I'm faculty. So I really, of course, love working with faculty. We go to curriculum. I've given presentations at curriculum, at faculty senate, you name it. So I feel like I'm kind of, the Renaissance gal for CPL, and I can cover most of the questions that come in. If you would like to join the RJV, if you see that your college is not part of the RJV, you might want to connect with your career education dean and then join Rosie or email Rosie Armstrong about joining the RJV. There might be some formal process that you need to go through, but Rosie will have that information. I let her have some time to work on some work she needed to get done today, and I told her I'd represent for Cabrillo. So mainly at that convening, we're going to try to give a broad overview. Then we're going to try to give time for each college to get together with their team. And in addition, we're going to try to find it time in the sessions where, or a specific session where people can meet on a role basis, right? So if you are the CPL coordinator, all the CPL coordinators get together and triage and get that feeling of a community and what do you do in yours. That way you're talking peer to peer. Same with the counselors, right? All the counselors get together, talk peer to peer, and administration talk together peer to peer. What is their role? How do they support the process without, impeding the process, et cetera, et cetera. So if you feel like you would like to either go to that convening or be part of your college's process, again, I'm going to put the response link in the chat and you can just look for your college and see who has responded for your college.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I do think for our sector, though, it's also helpful for us to talk to other people in ECE and EDU, especially when we're looking at specific courses, because of the cap alignment and because I think of some shared concerns we have. So I, if it makes sense later on, when Crystal has the apprenticeship group going and when the RJV is, moving forward a bit more, if we maybe specialize in community practice for this sector, have another meeting to see where people are landing, and what some of the concerns are, if that makes sense. And just to clarify for those faculty that may be on here that don't realize, the regional joint venture is funded by the region. So the BACCC has funded a joint venture on credit for prior learning in the same way they fund this regional joint venture on ECE and EDU pathways and apprenticeships. So it's just a way of our region specializing in kind of things that have risen to the top, in sector specific or community college specific areas. So the RJV is funded for how long? Your RJV is 2 years, is that correct? The Cabrillos, I think it's 2 years.
I believe it is 2 years, yes.
Okay. Okay. So it'd be good if we could use some of this time and some of this, the leadership of the RJV to really look at, you know, do we all have a course that we think could, as I said, something like work experience, kind of easy? What if all of our colleges agreed to, yeah, if someone's worked with children and we grant them work experience credit, that's pretty low hanging fruit. And we've stepped into the CPL pathway. If there's something kind of further up, it'd be great to use this time to have conversations with our sector. This is a CPL survey, and you can even, I believe, copy it right now and link to it. And I will gather this information. It's specifically for ECE and EDU. If you have CPL, if you're interested, and I will share it with Cabrillo. And if there's something specific there, I think there's a place for comments, and I can also ask Sigrid or Crystal to respond. And I believe there's a question related to apprenticeship. So if you do have an apprenticeship that where you're considering accelerated pathways or looking at how to address CPL in your apprenticeship, I'm happy to share this information with the folks on this call.
So
Okay.
Kathleen, do you
Yeah.
have the end date that you would like them all to take the survey? It's always nice to have that so it's not open-ended. If you can give them maybe the
Yes.
date to do it by, and then if you would share this also with the MAP team, and then we can get that shared with ASCCC.
Perfect. I will share it with you, and I would say end date would be great if you finish this in 2025. So before you go on break, it takes 1 minute. There's just, a few questions. So um, that would be great. And then I'll share the link with you, Sigrid and Crystal and Sarah.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So next steps. And Sigrid, Crystal, and please feel free to chime in here. These are my possible next steps. Start small, concerns, address skepticism in your sector. So if you have faculty that have concerns, are skeptical of CPL, that's very common. And Sigrid even addressed this 2 years ago, where it was not really a go. You may find that it doesn't work, but it might be one course. And again, I think work experience, for instance, is a pretty easy lift. So maybe that could be something that you'd agree with. Um, could there be an ECE EDU subcommittee of the Cabrillo College led RJV? Or could you all just, meet together as part of this in our region? What technical support do you need? And how do we utilize our resources? So those are kind of our next steps. Sigrid or Crystal, do you see more next steps here that I didn't list?
Kathleen, the only other thing that I did see on a couple of slides back, and you don't have to go back to it, is
Hmm.
making sure that we all share the same conventions.
Hmm.
So as some colleges are going to say dual enrollment is CPL, other colleges are going to say we call it articulations because
Hmm.
dual enrollment are high school students that are actually taking college courses. So that's not
Right,
CPL because they are
right.
taking courses.
Good point.
But it's the articulations. So if you have high schools that are offering early childhood and they meet the qualifications and it aligns with your college courses, yes, you can sign that articulation agreement. That is considered CPL
Okay,
and should be included within the MAP platform under your college.
good point. Yes. And I do sometimes use dual enrollment incorrectly. In this case, you're right. It has to do with a high school course that you're aware of the content, the curriculum, and probably you work with the high school already. Maybe they enter your college already, and would be willing to offer CPL.
Great.
Typically, is that credit by exam if that happens?
It can be. Yeah, a lot of them will do credit by exam and it may be facilitated by the high school or the high school, I'm sorry, maybe facilitated by the college
Hmm.
faculty. But there are courses that I've done that I've articulated with regional occupational programs and high schools that I accept their curriculum because we've gone through it and I vetted it
Hmm.
and it aligns well with ours. So I take them at face value, but I look at everything in that sense. So again, it's the autonomy of the college and what they're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, and as I mentioned to you, we actually at the college I was at had an agreement. It's not on the MAP platform because it was very old, but where students who enrolled in a child development course in their high school, it was a 1 year course, were able to take an exam,
Hmm.
and we granted them credit for the school age growth and development course.
Right.
So because that was really what the curriculum aligned with the most. So those kinds of things, especially where you know who's teaching the course, you may already have a relationship with this school, makes sense. Julian, you had a question?
Yeah, I just want to say that there's almost like four different caveats. You have dual enrollment, you
Mm-hmm.
have high school articulation, and because this is a CTE program, it could qualify under high school articulation.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have some schools that will do credit by exam,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of it's a, which is will where you also have examination on top of it. So it really is figuring out what is that direct pathway because the ed code also changes a little bit by that. And then every college will have their own way of transcripting that on their college transcripts. So there is that difference there. And
Mm-hmm.
then dual enrollment, and you also have concurrent enrollment. So there's just really when we want to be clear about what are the different terms we're using, as
Yeah.
someone was saying prior.
Yeah.
So the MAP initiative, when we identify the types of CPL, dual enrollment is not a type of CPL. We have credit by exam, we have portfolio review, industry credentials, we have standardized exams, which would be your AP, IB, CLEPs, and then we have
Correct.
JSTs. So
Okay.
when a student is taking a dual enrollment class, they are taking a college level class. So
Hmm.
that
Correct.
that is not considered CPL.
Hmm.
The articulations between colleges and high schools, because high school courses align with college courses, those can be done through articulations. Typically, they're going to be signed off as credit by exam because ultimately the student will be taking an exam, and you want that on their transcript because if they're going into a pathway into education, they're going to need to go to a university. We know the CSUs will accept all types of CPL. The UCs are still pushing back and not. They will only accept credit by exam. So we really want to make sure that everyone has those conventions down, and so
Got
we're all
it.
talking the same language.
Is there a document that lays out the mapping? Not the mapping, pun
Abs
intended.
Absolutely, we'll get that for you.
All right, thank you.
And that's a good point, that CSUs are accepting CPL, but UCs, do you see any movement with the UCs or?
Not
No.
not a lot.
Okay.
We both
And
hesitated.
yeah,
Not a lot.
not a
Yeah.
lot. It's very interesting, though, that many of the private colleges are all in with CPL, and there are some in our region that are granting between 18 and 24 units in CPL.
Yeah.
So, and some of
Very,
them
very true. Very, very
span,
true. To understand that all of them are charging for it as well.
they
And
are.
we don't charge for CPL. So they make it look very, very, they throw that teaser out there and they make their grocery list look really, really good, but the students are still, absorbing that financial burden because they're having to pay for it.
Mhm.
Whereas our institutions are not, and that's why we need to really make sure that we're getting it out there and we're getting it marketed to our students.
And we should change the ed code to not allow private schools to exist anymore.
I'm just
Well,
gonna leave that one alone.
we need choice, but I've well anyway, I don't want to say, but yeah, it's been very interesting what some of the privates are allowing, and what they're granting, in terms of CPL and in the lower division space, not just upper division, it's been lower division. So it's definitely in our curriculum. I just want to go to the last slide. These are highlighted resources here with some of the things we've talked about. Here's a link to the PowerPoint if you just want to grab that while you're on, and then I don't have to send it out. Some linked resources are LARC. The LA region, the 19 community colleges in the LA region are heavily working on CPL. And this is the email for this person who she may be even on this call because I think I saw her enter, but leading this effort in LARC. And so it would make sense to look at what LA is doing in ECE and EDU in credit for prior learning and, learn from each other. ASCCC and CCCO, the MAP initiative, and this is the MAP website. And the CPL dashboard. Sarah, you have been talking to. CPL publication, ASCC has a toolkit, on CPL, and there's a link to it. The Child Development Training Consortium has a page on CPL and getting it started, especially around the CAP 8 courses. Also, the Cradle to Career Data System has been looking at capturing CPL. And then here's a link to our PowerPoint. So you have that. Oh, let me go back, just in case you want to grab the PowerPoint. And now we have a bit of time for questions. Sigrid or Crystal, do you have anything that we didn't cover? Annabelle, do you want to introduce yourself? I see you on here just as the lead for the RJV.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Annabelle Rodriguez. I'm the Dean of Career Education and Workforce Development at Cabrillo College. The RJV, the RJV over the credit for prior learning. We are really excited to work with over 20 Bay Area colleges that signed up for the CPL. So this really speaks to the interest of our colleges and in adopting CPL practices and really doing right by our students and our community members and acknowledging that our students learn in a lot of different platforms and labs and kitchens and ackfields and fire stations and military bases. And so this is something that has existed for a long time, but is has gained a lot of attraction and real support by the chancellor's office. So I'm excited for this change and for what's coming.
Thank you, Annabelle. Thank you,
Exactly.
Cabrillo, for leading this, and I hope we can focus on this sector a bit and gather some folks together who are here to continue this effort and share this forward momentum. Any other questions? We have a little bit more time, especially for Sigrid and Crystal. Alice?
Well, this is probably specific to our sector, but I'm wondering about credit for prior learning and its acceptance by the CTC.
So Commission on Teacher Credentialing, how does it show up in a transcript, Sigrid?
So it's going to show up as CPL and it's going to show up as the type. So if it is credit by exam, it will show up as CX. That's the term that we're using, so we don't get the convention, confused with the credit by, what's the other one? CBE. So we took the CX as that. So if it's a JST, it's gonna reflect as JST. Here's the thing: when they're going on to a four-year university and they're getting their degree before they go to CDC to get their credential, they're going to take those credit recommendations. So if they've got a degree, their associate's degree, and it's been awarded, that will go through completely. I have not heard of CDC turning that down or saying no, we're not going to accept it. But it would be definitely a question that we would want to make sure that we address when that work group is formed.
Okay. Yeah, and the CTC would be assessing child development permits also. So further earlier in the pathway, making sure that a credit for exam by exam would count. We can ask CTC. I haven't heard that it hasn't, but that's a good question, Alice.
And just Julian, I put in the chat for you. It's a little ways up there. I went ahead and gave you the scaling paperwork, the scaling magazine that you can download. That has all the different types. It talks about everything CPL, including, students taking more units, talks about the savings and preservation of funds and all that. So you might want to take a look at that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Alice, I'll send the CTC an email. And Kate's on here. Kate, you can bring this up maybe at one of the CTC meetings too, right? I think I saw you, Kate, right? Kate Brown. She was a participant. Let me see if she's still here. Because she represents us on the CTC. If she had to hop off, yeah, she might have hopped off. I will email her. She can bring it up at the next CTC
So
meeting.
Kathy, the one place that will definitely show up is the new requirement for the 100 hours of practicum with credit for prior learning, regardless of who is transcribing it. You're gonna have to meet that requirement for the new permit if they vote yes on Thursday, which all indicators are that they will.
Okay.
I just caught one thing. I had a question though for, I think it was Sigrid was saying, when it's transcribed, I thought I had been told previously that it's under local control what the transcription will look like. Is it required to have a CPL code? Or is that just what the MAP team is suggesting? I didn't.
No, anytime you're transcribing CPL, it's going to be transcribed on the transcript as either a letter grade, pass, no pass, and it's going to identify what it was. Did they actually take a course, or was it given based on some other reason. If it's done credit by exam, that is a form of CPL. If it's done industry credential IC, that is a form of CPL. So anytime it's not an actual physical class and someone is getting credit for that, it's being given credit for CPL. It's not going to say CPL. It's not going to have those initials in there, the acronym, but it's definitely colleges and universities are going to be able to see that someone took a credit by exam or they had an industry credential to come in to get that coursework.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So to that point also, I just wanted to say that the definitions behind those areas and those data points are on the chancellor's website, right? And so that the data definitions are available for us to review, so we don't have to really kind of guess. But I do want to say, of course, each records group is going to have a specific way in which they're running this, but the bottom line is the transcription will need to happen for any type of CPL that's going through.
Okay. Okay, and so to Tony's point and to Alice's point, making sure that the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, looking at how they're distinguishing those marks on someone's transcripts would be important, and then making sure that the hour requirements in this ever-changing world of requirements are specific would be important. So I'll email Kate Williams Brown, and Tony, you attend a number of meetings. Maybe you can check on that too. You said they're voting next week.
So the 100 hours that will be required for ECE 2 and above goes into regs. It's on the agenda on Thursday, this Thursday.
Okay.
And so they've made it clear that they will have to go back for anyone applying for the new permit and verify that those 100 hours were met. So a CPL for a practicum course would be a concern
Okay.
if it doesn't meet the requirements that the commission decides on.
Okay. Well, that's a concern anyway. That's a concern outside of CPL, right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And
For all
so
of
I think
us.
that the field has been working on that, but then
Yeah.
the bigger thing is going to be the conference of the associate degree, and that is going to be regardless of CPL or not, right? And so
Right.
most of those other pathways for CPL are cleared through the commission. I think the only hangup would be because it's explicitly called out associate's degree as well as a practicum with the required hours in it.
Okay.
And then Tony also realized that this is flowing. It's ongoing. So anytime there are changes, we typically will ask work groups or we will go back to the subject matter experts and say, now look at the new curriculum, now look at the new, legislation, and does it still align? So if you go onto the MAP platform and you look at those statewide credit recommendations, some of them will actually have a sunset date on there that it has to be reviewed again, similar to what we do in CTE where we're reviewing our courses every 2 years.
Uh-huh.
So it's going to be taken in that same context that if we're changing up curriculum, then we need to make sure that CPL is still going to align with our curriculum. If it doesn't, it gets pulled. If it does, then we just, we allow it to move forward.
Okay.
And that makes sense. And we are CTE. Early childhood is CTE as well, right? And so we're on the 2 program review cycle as well.
Okay. So a bit of a interesting challenge here related to the changes of the permit and also related to CTC's acceptance of the CPL notation. So I'll try to clarify that and get that out of my next newsletter. I'll talk to Kate and Tony, maybe after Thursday, you feel free to just email me a summary of what some of the issues are and I'll put it out in the newsletter. And I'll put these notes out too. We're not here to solve any problems today. We're just posing questions, but this is a moving target and something's moving as soon as Thursday. So that'd be great to have an update on that. So thank you. Any other questions, comments? We have 2 more minutes. And thank you.
Kathleen, hi.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Alice. Yes.
Can you please put the link to the PowerPoint? We can't click on it because it's
Oh,
not clickable.
it's not working?
No.
Okay. All right.
Please and thank you.
Okay, I will try to get that in. And I also have everyone who's attended, so I will send that out to you. Okay. I can't do both. So I'll send it out.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'll send it out to everyone who attended. Okay, any other comments? Crystal, Sigrid, final?
No,
Thank
I'm
you for
just looking
having
forward.
us.
Yep. Thank you for having us. Looking forward to working with you all.
Okay, thank you everyone for being here. And I'll send the PowerPoint out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.